Oh, what's happened there?
Oh, it's just setting things up.
Yeah, my MacBook went into sleep mode.
Oh.
Because it thinks I'm not using it. I might just have to keep tapping on it.
Right. Oh, I think here we are. Now I just need to make sure I'm where I am. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon to all our members who are joining us on Facebook. I'm so pleased to be joined by Nikki and Rachel from Surrey Choices. Hopefully you'll all have had a chance to listen to Christina's presentation that was streamed earlier today. I know I did and followed it with enormous interest. So it'll be really lovely to have a chat. I wonder maybe if we start, Rachel and Nikki, with some introductions, if you'll tell us what you do and any your kind of bit of expertise in Surrey Choices, that would be really lovely.
So my name's Rachel Walker. I'm the Employment and Communities Manager for the North and East of Surrey, obviously with the employability team. And as you will have seen in Christina's slides, employability support people in the majority of the service is to support people into employment, but obviously we work on various different projects as well. Future Choices supported internships, which were all again detailed in Christina's presentation. So that's me.
Brilliant, thank you. How about you, Nikki?
So I'm Nikki Harding and I'm the Employment and Communities Manager for the west of the county. So the same role as Rachel, but I cover Surrey, Heath, Woking, Waverley.
Brilliant, thank you so much. Sorry, Heath, Waverley is my neck of the woods, so it's lovely to put a face to a name. The presentation I found really useful from Christina, because in my little understanding as a mum, I've got 3 kids who are heading in that transition stage, and I knew about employability, and I think it'd be really interesting to hear a little bit more, but I hadn't realised quite how varied an offer Surrey Choices has. And I suppose the one of the questions that came in that I was really interested about was if you were able to tell me a little bit more about the Changing Days programme. It sounded as though your day services were changing, and I wasn't quite clear how that was. Are you able to tell me a little bit more about that?
Do you want me to pick that up?
Yeah, no, okay, go for it, Rachel.
No, you started, go, please do.
So it's more, we're getting more involved in outreach work now, so outreach support. So we are supporting, sorry, go on.
I just wondered, from a parent perspective, we hear about that there's a whole load of language that sometimes can be a little bit difficult to understand, and outreach is one of those that is used in some quite different ways in some, depending on where you're coming from. So I suppose I wonder, what does that actually mean from your perspective?
Okay, so from our perspective, it's supporting people in their homes. So either going into somebody's home, in their family home, and supporting them with their needs, their daily needs and what they need, or supporting them to attend the leisure centre or go for walks in the park. So just generally being out and about within their local community and accessing the local facilities that are nearby to them.
That sounds really good. And in doing that, do you find that you're able to help people access more, I suppose, mainstream services, or are there still more specialist activities that they might join? I suppose I find one of my concerns as a parent is the isolation that a lot of our young people experience. And that feels like potentially it's a risk of having that kind of outreach focus rather than a place to go. I may well be wrong.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think what we're aiming for is to try and support people within their local community, so accessing their local volunteering opportunities with other people, within their society. So not just necessarily supporting them to access another special needs group externally. It is having that full inclusion. So so I suppose it's like looking at the traffic light system. So red, amber, and green. So we're trying to move people from the red and the amber to green. So to try and access and really be fully inclusive within their local communities and things that mainstream people access, swimming and playing badminton with a local badminton club, for example. So yeah, just really embracing in people to get more of their community.
That sounds brilliant, Nikki. Thank you so much. It's really important, isn't it? I think we find ourselves so often in that special needs world, and real life doesn't work like that very well, does it? I suppose one of the things that I'm really struck by in all of the offer of Surrey Choices, which I suppose fits in a little bit with this, is it seems that a lot of the provision that you have is very much for those young people who are under the service of adult social care. And I suppose I wondered, first of all, is there any way to access the kind of things, for example, the employability support, which is just amazing and really empowering? I wonder, is there any way for somebody who isn't with adult social care to have access to that kind of support?
We do. Obviously, the majority of the people under the employability service, yes, do come to us via adult social care. But we do look at self-funding as well. So people can self-fund our service. And, that's becoming more and more as we go through, that people can contact us. We can have those conversations with the families and explore that option. So that is it's not, we try not to say no to anybody. Obviously, we do have to say no to some people, but it's another option that can be explored if you're not eligible under adult social care.
That's really good to know. I think we yes.
Can I just add also that if you're not eligible, but you do job or you are employed, you have facing some sort of difficulty in the workplace, we are able to support you with that, using the Department of, so the DWP Access to Work funding scheme, where you can, we can apply for funding for job coaching elements to come in and support.
That's so helpful, thank you. I know that we have a lot of families who contact us who don't sit comfortably anywhere in the system, and who really, particularly when their children leave, often a specialist placement, find themselves really at a loss. And listening to Christina's description of what you offer sounded like it fits so much of the need of young people like that. So it's nice to know that at least there's the possibility for at least an initial conversation and learning a little bit more. Thank you very much.
I think what we try and say to people is, contact us and let's have those conversations, that there are options that we can explore. Some people might think my son and daughter aren't part of adult social care, so we won't contact. Please do, because there are ways around things and options to be explored.
Great, thank you so much. So I've got a whole load of questions that have just arrived, which is really lovely. The next one that I've got is, in the non-COVID world, is there prioritizing? So do you have criteria for who gets support, or is it freely given to anyone who needs it? Which I suppose is within, I would imagine, that cohort under adult social care. Do you then have an additional set of criteria for those people to access your services, or is it open to any of those people?
I think if you're...
Our main referrals do come from social care. Sorry, Rachel.
You go. No, you go.
So yeah, our main referrals do come through from adult social care and transition teams once individuals have left the education system. So yeah, so the majority of our referrals are from adult social care, but we do also offer work experience within education settings. So we are funded by some schools and colleges to go and support their students to find some meaningful work experience that go alongside in their education setting.
Great, thank you. I was going to ask you about that, the kind of school age thing. For young people and children to access those services, is that dependent on them having an EHCP, or is it the schools that kind of ask you to come in and they do it based on the child's needs? I wonder, are there any specific criteria for children to be able to access those?
Well, we mainly work with SEN schools, so
Right.
The students that we do work with would have EHCPs, but that's not to say that, if the college or the school setting are willing to fund us to provide that support, we'll be willing and open to support those individuals with SEND needs.
Okay, great, thank you. So that actually, I think mostly you've answered. My third question was, how do referrals get made? And they mentioned the transition team. We wondered whether you ever get referrals from the job centres.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Yes.
Good
And
to know.
that takes us back a little bit to what Nikki was saying earlier about being able to work with people that are not eligible. So sometimes people may be on universal credit or one of the older benefits, have managed to get some employment, but due to not having that support, the role might either become a struggle or they may lose their role. So we work closely with the job centres around Surrey, and we try and hot desk from the job centres if we can. And the disability employment advisor might contact us to say this person is at risk of losing their job, they're struggling in their job, or they might need some more specialist support. So we do take referrals from the job centre. And again, if the person is open to adult social care, we can start to work with them straight away. But if they're in work but at risk of losing their job, that's when we can use the access to work funding to support them.
Great, thank you. That's really helpful. One of the things in terms of if a young person is with the transition team, is the kind of referral to you or is the offer of Surrey Choices, is that something that is automatically brought to the family's attention, or does it need to be kick-started in by, for example, the parents? I wonder, I suppose, if when I know that young people will go through an assessment, and at what point, if any, does the offer from Surrey Choices get put on the table for discussion, or whether it really needs to be the parents and the family and the young person themselves to say, oh, I've heard about Surrey Choices, what do they have to offer? Do you know about that?
I think that's a mix on it.
Go on,
I was going to say, I think that's quite a mixture, depending on areas, if I'm absolutely honest. Sometimes the families are very aware because we might have been into the school that young person attended, or they might have heard from family and friends about us. Some teams might bring employability into review conversations much earlier. I think it's quite an individual thing and does tend to be a little bit different throughout the teams.
Yeah. So I suppose
I was going to add, actually, our colleagues at Surrey County Council are aware of us. So, the Learning Disabilities and Autism team are fully aware of us, and so are the other locality teams. So they are the first protocol that make the referrals to us. We work very closely with them. We will go in and do some presentations so that we are very much in touch with them to keep them informed and updated of our services across Surrey Choices.
That sounds really interesting. Do you have a similar relationship with the SEND teams at the school age level? I'm thinking particularly with the work that you're doing around future choices. Are you finding that you're getting access to those SEND caseworkers to help them understand as well?
Yes, yeah, very much so. We're extremely well and closely with the SEND team across the whole of the county as well. Last year, Future Choices was a pilot programme, but it is fully up and running, and a new cohort that started in September and a few more due to start in January. So we are very much within their teams as well, and they very much are aware of us, and we receive referrals from the SEND teams all the time. So it's really good.
It's really good to hear. I suppose the other question, the next question I have follows on beautifully is do you have capacity to help everyone who needs it?
Unfortunately not. We have limited resources, but our teams are ever evolving and ever growing. So we are always looking at resources and ways of how we can support the people who do get the referrals from. And obviously, when the schools and the colleges fund us to do that to support their students within their education settings, we're then able to bring in more resources for that funded program for people to be able to receive that support that they need.
And am I right in thinking that to a certain extent, obviously the successes of your pilots, but if you had a lot of demand from families, that might help get you some more resources to kind of say, yes, there is clearly demand for this service, or learning slowly how all of these mechanisms work. Sorry, I'm on my next question. What does it say? It says, it's great that you keep in touch during the route to employment, but if you're over 25 and not in adult social care, who keeps in touch then to check you're doing okay?
So that's a very good question.
So is that, just going back to the question, is that somebody that's not open to adult social care?
That's the question, yes.
So if we're working with you, then you are open to adult social care, or you're a self-funder, or we're working with you via access to work funding. The job centres do have a disability employment advisor. So if you're struggling and you're not eligible for our service, we would signpost you. There are other organisations as well, obviously, or we would signpost you to the disability employment advisor. It could be that you're not open to adult social care, but you may be eligible. So it might be, that you would request an assessment to see if you are indeed eligible. Not everybody has those early assessments in early life. Some people have an assessment much later in life because they're not aware of adult social care or what that involves. So we would always try and signpost as many people as we could if we weren't able to work with them.
Thank you. I think you make a really good point there, don't you? Because we're so, I think especially in the parent carer world, we always feel like we have to be on top, and there's almost, if you don't catch that train or that boat, you've lost it forever. So I think that advice of you can apply for an assessment regardless of your age.
Your circumstances change as well. So if you're living at home with your family, you've got those circumstances, but if you then move out into supported living or independent living, your circumstances may well change and you may need more support. So if you've been turned down for an assessment when you were younger, you can apply for another assessment as your circumstances change.
Lovely, thank you so much. I've just had a little note from Christina, who says, thanks for the opportunity to talk earlier. Just wanted to highlight that you're currently negotiating some employment support for non-eligible autistic people from JCP. Always worth keeping in touch as often new opportunities. I don't know what JCP is, do you?
Job Centre Plus.
Ah, thank you so much. I wanted to ask you actually, as the mother of one of these young people who is entering this new world, I'd heard about the disability employment advisors, and I was really encouraged. And then I suppose COVID probably hasn't helped, but I found it impossible to be able to talk to anybody. So we've applied for universal credit for my son, and because of COVID, he hasn't had any meetings. So at the moment, I have no way of talking to such a person. Is that kind of the normal process? Do you find that you've got to apply for the benefit before you can get hold of them, or is there some way to contact a disability employment advisor?
Sorry, my screen just went then.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I must admit, benefits aren't my our strong point, but I believe you'd need itself first, and then you would be signposted to but you need to highlight that you do have an additional need, and you may need to have access to the DEA disability advisor in the job centre, and then I think that's how it works.
That's the process. Thank you so much.
To begin with, everybody gets what they're classed as a job coach. But obviously, throughout the conversations with your job coach, if you highlight your struggles, then yes, then they'll set up an appointment with the disability employment advisor.
Great, thank you so much. This is the next one. Do you know this theme? It just comes up again and again and again, regardless almost of age, although it does seem to be young teens upwards, but we hear about these families so much. are there services available for those unable to leave home through anxiety and not able to engage or ready for any form of work, especially if they require one-to-one support outside of Surrey Choices?
Yes, you may have heard in Christina's presentation earlier on, we are working really closely with the SEND team, and we have identified just that. There are some students or some learners that haven't been in school or education for a number of months or sometimes even years. So at this point, we're creating a bespoke kind of pack. It might just be a couple of hours a week that is encouraging individuals just to leave the house, go for a 5-minute walk, 10-minute walk, meet in the coffee shop, and slowly start that journey into employment. But it may take a long while, as you rightly say. Somebody has anxiety, it's very challenging to leave the house, so it's a slower process, but there is support out there that we can provide.
And that presumably is either through the SEND teams or the transition team if they're a little bit older?
Yes, either or. But usually the SEND caseworker are all through to us, and just we take, because they deal with so many young people at so many different stages of their journeys. So we're very open to have discussions with parents, carers, with the SEND team to see whether we can support in any way.
Great, thank you very much. I'm just trying to think what else. Oh yes, you talked. Christina talked in her presentation about the Shared Lives program that you have, and I wondered. I was particularly struck by the kind of respite offer, as opposed to kind of permanent living. And I wondered, is all of the Shared Lives program for 18 and upwards, or is there a kind of overlap of age?
Yeah, I think the service is
18 plus.
Upwards, with yeah.
Lovely. I think, at the moment I'm going to check to see if Rachel's got anything else for me. The only other thing that I think we've probably covered it, but it was about accessing the work experience programs. It sounds from what we've been talking about that would be mostly through school that you'd access that. Is that right?
Yes, generally the school or the college will contact Surrey Choices, and they'll ask for us to support their cohort of students to access work experience. So
lovely.
It could be a small school where we support a handful of students, or it could be one of the larger colleges where we support the whole of the department, which could be up to 120 students to find work experience.
Fantastic. I do have another question. What companies do you work with?
Oh,
that's very far and wide open.
It is far and wide, isn't it? I think a lot of our parents, when we're looking around and saying, where might our young people work, one of the things is what companies that we might know about do we know are going to be friendly? And I know we talked about the Disability Confident scheme. I can't remember. I think that was with Chloe from the Prince's Trust yesterday. But I was really interested to see if there were companies that you had ongoing relationships with.
I think the way that we work, we start with the person. So we would be referred somebody, and we would listen to what they wanted to do. So rather than contact an employer and then see if we've got somebody who could slot into that job, we start with the person. So it's looking at what the person's choices are, what their skills are, what do they want to achieve, and you build up a picture. And then the employment support specialist, who would be working closely with that person, will then go out and try and find what that person is interested in. Obviously, we have to be very realistic. We do get some people that we think you might achieve that, but you might have certain steps to follow before you get there. So I know there was an option. We have a lot of young people that want to be games testers because they play online games. That's their hobby, their life, their passion. But becoming a games tester might be something that is very hard to achieve. a lot of work before that, but it's looking at what other skills might you need before that. So it's looking at, you know, confidence out in the community, speaking to other people, good timekeeping, and build it up from there. But we always start with the person.
That's really good to hear, isn't it? Yeah.
But the employers that we work with range from big multinational companies down to your little corner shop, and everything else in between.
That sounds really good. Thank you so much, Rachel. How do you, or can you, I wonder how often you work with a young person who tells you, well, I don't want a job. And is that just everything is blocked?
Well, that's absolutely. Go on, Rachel.
Obviously, when somebody's referred to us, they're referred to our service or to the employability part of the service because they want to work, and right. they have to want to work. They have to have an interest in working, because we can't make somebody want to work. So that's part of it. They are referred to employability if they have an interest in work, and that's what they want to aspire to and achieve.
Right. Thank you very much.
At that point, you know, we always say to them, actually, you may not be ready at this point, but when you feel that you are ready for work, you know, you can always make a new referral and come back to us in the future.
Great, thank you. Is that, I mean, you do this obviously every day. I wonder, I've kind of given you questions that we've received, but I wonder, is there anything that we haven't touched on that you think young people and their families would benefit from hearing?
I think one of the things that jumps to my mind is when you have been in education for a number of years and then you're coming to the end of your education, for the young person and the parents, it's a huge step. And, you know, some people might think that my son and daughter may never aspire to work, and there might be barriers. But, you know, like you said, we've been doing this for a long time, and some people's journeys are very slow. There's a lot of things to overcome, a lot of anxieties, a lot of worries and concerns, and also things like benefits and things like that. Other people's journeys might be much quicker, but it's what is next in most people's lives. You go into education, you aspire to get a job, maybe into independent living. It's all part of a journey.
And I would just add, employment is for everybody. You know, in a loosely term, some people might just want to do some volunteering and give back to the community, even if they need that additional support, and having one-to-one support with them, it is achievable. So we can support you to find a suitable working environment for yourself, which you can then take your PA along to support you ongoing. So, you know, employment, it is accessible for everybody and anybody that wants to work and wants to give something back to the community also.
That's such an encouraging message, isn't it? Lovely. I think we might have, you know, we've had a whole load of questions, haven't we, from those people who've been looking at us. I think I've run out of my kind of tentacles of questions. Are you happy if we have more questions that come through after this? Are you happy for us to pass them on to you, and so that we can keep this conversation going?
Yes, please do. And if any viewers out there, you know, wanting to get any more information, just go into our website or type in the info at Surrey Choices, type in your inquiries, and we'll be more than happy to help. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so very much. And thank you both for your time. It's been really lovely to meet you. And I know that you're going to have a whole load of parents who are left really encouraged and hopeful for their young people. So thank you very much indeed.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me stop.